Have you ever replayed the same conversation in your mind long after it ended? Perhaps you wondered if you said the wrong thing. Maybe you imagined how you could have answered differently. Or perhaps you found yourself lying awake at night, thinking about tomorrow while everyone else seemed to sleep peacefully. If you've experienced this, you've probably been told the same thing countless times. You're overthinking. For many people, those words sound like criticism. Society often treats overthinking as a flaw. We're encouraged to stop worrying, go with the flow, or don't think so much. And it's true that excessive worrying can become unhealthy. Psychologists distinguish between productive reflection, which helps us learn and solve problems, and rumination, which traps us in cycles of anxiety. But what if we've misunderstood overthinking altogether? What if the problem isn't that your mind works differently, but that no one ever taught you how to guide it? Throughout history, some of humanity's greatest thinkers shared one remarkable characteristic. They questioned everything. They reflected deeply. They analyzed possibilities. From scientists and inventors to philosophers and successful entrepreneurs, many extraordinary individuals spent far more time thinking than the average person. Their minds never settled for simple answers. The difference was not that they thought less. The difference was that they learned how to direct their thoughts toward growth instead of fear. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset reminds us that our way of thinking can become one of our greatest assets when it's focused on learning. Instead of self-criticism, the goal is not to silence your mind. The goal is to train it. Today, we'll explore 9 hidden strengths often found in people who overthink. Perhaps you'll discover that your greatest challenge also contains your greatest potential. Let's begin. Hidden strength number 1. They notice what everyone else misses. Imagine 2 people walking through the same park. One enjoys the scenery and keeps walking. The other notices the elderly man sitting alone on a bench, a child quietly crying near the playground, a bird building its nest beneath a bridge. Most people see the obvious. Deep thinkers often notice the details. Psychologists explain that some individuals naturally process more information from their surroundings. Instead of filtering out small observations, their minds continue collecting them. Sometimes this becomes exhausting, but it also becomes a remarkable advantage. Successful detectives notice clues others ignore. Great investors recognize trends before they become obvious. Outstanding leaders sense changes in morale long before problems become visible. This ability isn't magic, it's observation. People who overthink often spend more time connecting details together. They remember expressions, changes in tone, tiny inconsistencies, patterns. Over time, these observations become valuable insights. The challenge is learning to use this gift wisely. Notice the details, but don't allow every detail to become a source of unnecessary worry. Observation should create understanding, not fear. Hidden strength number 2. They think several steps ahead. Have you ever been accused of planning too much? Perhaps you imagine every possible outcome before making a decision. Some people see this as hesitation. Psychologists often see something different: strategic thinking. Chess masters rarely think about their next move alone. They're already imagining the next 5 or 6 moves. Airline pilots review emergency procedures before taking off. Experienced surgeons mentally rehearse complex operations long before entering the operating room. Preparation reduces mistakes. People who naturally think ahead often become excellent planners because their minds instinctively explore possibilities. Of course, this strength has a shadow. If every possible outcome becomes a source of fear, planning turns into paralysis. But when guided properly, thinking ahead becomes wisdom. Instead of asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" ask, "What can I do today to prepare for tomorrow?" That single question transforms worry into action. And action is where confidence begins. Hidden strength number 3. They develop extraordinary emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman changed the way psychologists think about success. His research showed that emotional intelligence often predicts long-term success more accurately than IQ alone. Why? Because life is built on relationships. People who overthink often spend considerable time reflecting on conversations. At first glance, this seems like a weakness, but beneath that habit lies something powerful: awareness. They replay situations because they're trying to understand people. They ask themselves, why did they react that way? What was that person feeling? Could I have communicated better? This constant reflection builds empathy. It teaches them to notice emotions that others overlook. The healthiest overthinkers eventually learn an important lesson. Don't assume what someone is thinking, ask. Understanding grows through curiosity, not imagination. When reflection is guided by empathy instead of fear, emotional intelligence becomes one of life's greatest strengths. Hidden strength number 4. Their curiosity never stops growing. Children ask endless questions why, because curiosity is how human beings learn. Unfortunately, many adults slowly stop asking. People who overthink often never lose that curiosity. Instead of accepting easy answers, they keep exploring. Why does this happen? How does it work? What can I learn? Albert Einstein once said, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." That curiosity changed science forever. Curiosity drives innovation. It fuels creativity. It inspires lifelong learning. Every book becomes another opportunity. Every mistake becomes another lesson. Every conversation becomes another source of wisdom. People who keep asking thoughtful questions continue growing long after others believe they've learned enough. The greatest danger isn't asking too many questions. It's believing there are no more questions worth asking. Hidden strength number 5. They become exceptional problem solvers. Every significant achievement begins with someone refusing to accept a problem as permanent. Overthinkers naturally spend more time searching for solutions. Their minds continue working long after others have moved on. Thomas Edison reportedly tested thousands of materials before developing a practical light bulb. When asked about his failures, he famously explained that he had simply discovered thousands of methods that didn't work. That's the mindset of a problem solver. Not someone defeated by difficulty, but someone determined to understand it. Psychologists often describe this as persistence combined with analytical thinking. Instead of seeing obstacles as dead ends, they become puzzles waiting to be solved. The key, however, is directing your thoughts towards solutions rather than replaying the problem itself. Ask yourself, what is one thing I can do next? One action is more valuable than 100 worries, because every meaningful solution begins with a single thoughtful step. Hidden strength number 6. They learn from their mistakes faster than most people. One event, 2 different people. The first person makes a mistake and quickly forgets about it. The second person reflects on what happened for days. At first glance, the second person appears to be overthinking, but psychology suggests something more interesting. Reflection is one of the most powerful teachers we have. Carol Dweck, whose research on the growth mindset has influenced educators and business leaders around the world, explains that successful people don't see mistakes as evidence of failure. They see them as opportunities to improve. This is where many overthinkers have an unexpected advantage. They naturally revisit experiences. They replay conversations. They analyze decisions. The problem isn't that they reflect. The problem begins only when reflection turns into self-condemnation. There's a huge difference. One question asks, why am I like this? The other asks, what can I learn from this? One destroys confidence. The other builds wisdom. Professional athletes spend hours reviewing game footage, not because they enjoy reliving mistakes, because every mistake contains information. Pilots investigate incidents to improve future safety. Businesses analyze failed products before creating successful ones. Growth has always required reflection. The healthiest overthinkers eventually discover that the purpose of looking backward is not to punish themselves, it's to prepare themselves. The past should become a teacher, never a prison. Hidden strength number 7. Their intuition becomes surprisingly accurate. People often believe intuition is something mystical, something you're simply born with. Psychologists see it differently. Much of intuition comes from recognizing patterns. Your brain quietly stores thousands of experiences throughout your life. Faces, voices, conversations, successes, failures. Without realizing it, your mind begins connecting those experiences. Overthinkers often accelerate this process because they spend more time analyzing situations. Imagine an experienced firefighter entering a burning building. Within seconds, they sense something feels wrong. Later, they discover the floor was about to collapse. They didn't predict the future. Their brain recognized subtle warning signs based on years of experience. The same thing happens in everyday life. Some people instinctively recognize unhealthy relationships. Others notice business opportunities. Some sense dishonesty before anyone else does. Their intuition wasn't random. It was built through observation and reflection. The key is learning to trust patterns, not panic. Intuition grows stronger when it's supported by wisdom instead of fear. Hidden strength number 8. They prepare better than most people. Have you ever noticed how calm some people remain during difficult situations? Often, it's because they've already imagined them. Preparation reduces uncertainty. Highly analytical people naturally think through different possibilities before taking action. They don't prepare because they expect failure. They prepare because preparation creates confidence. Consider a mountain climber. Before beginning the climb, they check their equipment, study the weather, plan emergency routes, pack extra supplies. Some might call this overthinking. Experienced climbers call it survival. Preparation has always separated professionals from amateurs. The challenge is knowing when preparation is complete. Many overthinkers become trapped waiting for the perfect plan, but perfection doesn't exist. Successful people prepare carefully. Then they begin. Confidence doesn't appear before action. It grows because of action. Preparation opens the door. Courage walks through it. Hidden strength number 9. They constantly improve themselves. Perhaps the greatest hidden strength of overthinkers is something psychologists call self-awareness. They regularly examine their own behavior, their habits, their decisions, their beliefs. Rohn often reminded audiences that success is something you attract by becoming the kind of person capable of achieving it. That process begins with honest self-reflection. People who never examine themselves rarely change. People who constantly examine themselves without taking action often become discouraged. The healthiest overthinkers learn to combine both reflection and action. They ask, what kind of person am I becoming? What habit should I improve? What lesson is life trying to teach me? These questions create growth. Small improvements repeated every day eventually become extraordinary transformations. The person you become matters far more than the goals you achieve, because who you become determines what you continue attracting into your life. Self-awareness isn't about criticizing yourself. It's about understanding yourself well enough to become better tomorrow than you were today. Here is what matters. The world often tells overthinkers the same thing. Stop thinking so much. But perhaps that's the wrong advice. Maybe the real question isn't whether you think too much. Maybe it's whether you're thinking in the right direction. Imagine holding a magnifying glass beneath the sun. If the light scatters everywhere, nothing happens. But when every ray becomes focused on one point, it becomes powerful enough to create fire. Your mind works the same way. Scattered thoughts create anxiety. Focused thoughts create wisdom. Overthinking itself isn't your enemy. Direction is. History is filled with remarkable individuals who thought more deeply than those around them. Leonardo da Vinci filled notebooks with endless questions about nature, anatomy, engineering, and art. Marie Curie spent years patiently exploring scientific mysteries that others ignored. Warren Buffett built extraordinary wealth, not through impulsive decisions, but through careful analysis and thoughtful patience. These individuals weren't successful because they worried. They were successful because they learned how to transform deep thinking into purposeful action. And that's the lesson psychology continues to teach us today. Your mind is incredibly powerful. Treat it like a garden. If left unattended, weeds begin to grow fear, doubt, endless worry. But with care, discipline, and intentional habits, that same garden begins producing wisdom, creativity, solutions, and resilience. So the next time someone tells you that you think too much, smile. Then quietly ask yourself a better question. How can I use my mind more wisely today? Because the people who make the greatest difference in the world are rarely those who never questioned anything. More often, they're the people who learn to ask better questions, to think with purpose, to learn continuously, and to turn reflection into meaningful action. Your greatest strength isn't that your mind never stops. Your greatest strength is that you have the ability to guide it, master that ability. And what once felt like your greatest weakness may become the very reason you succeed. Because extraordinary lives are not built by people who never think deeply. They are built by people who learn how to transform deep thinking into deliberate action. One thoughtful decision, one meaningful lesson, and one purposeful day at a time.